In just 20 minutes, I'm going to show you how you can use Figma to design beautiful mobile apps or websites even if you have no prior experience. So if you've always wanted to learn how to do that, then this is just the video for you. For the rest of the video, you're only going to be hearing my voice while I show my screen so that you can follow me step by step. Without taking much time, let's get started. Now, one thing I like about Figma is that if you are just starting out or trying to learn or design for yourself, then it is free for the most part, which means you might not really have you don't really need to subscribe to the paid version of Figma in order to be able to learn all that I will be showing you in this tutorial. Figma is a web design tool that you can use to design interactive prototypes for web and mobile applications. Starting out, you can head on to figma.com to visit the Figma homepage where you can view details about what Figma is for and what you can use it to do. So on the home page, you can see the call to action buttons at the top, and this one says get started for free. You can click on the get started for free button if you are just new and you don't have an account, but for me, I have an account already, so I'm just going to click on log in and log into my account, and then we can start designing. Remember, you could also download the Figma web application straight on your desktop app, so you don't need to visit the website each time you want to work. So after logging into Figma and creating your account, this is the first screen that you will see. Now I'm going to explain some of the things that are on this screen so that you can understand before we start designing. On the right side of the screen, you can see your name and notifications icon where you can track your notifications, and then a search bar for you to search your files. If you've worked on any files previously, you can find them under recents. Your draft will be under drafts, and you can click on templates and tools to find community resources online. Under that, you can find your team name, and if you've worked on any team files there, you can track them there. So over there on the top right of the screen, you can see a couple of buttons. The first one says design, so which is what you click when you want to create a new design file. That is our major focus for now when we start designing. The FigJam allows you to create a FigJam file, while the slides allow you to create a new slide or presentation. Now under that, you can find Figma resources from the community, and then your recently viewed files, and shared projects in different categories that you can always access from the home screen. If you've worked on any files previously, you should see them there, and you can double click on any of them to continue where you stopped. Now we are going to go ahead and create a new design file by clicking on the design icon over there, which will open up the design environment where we can start designing. Now we are in the Figma design environment, and this is where you can do your designs. If you want to start working on a project, you have to find your way here by clicking on the design from the home page, and then you can start designing. On the right side of your screen is where we have the properties panel and also the prototype tab, where you can make different settings that affect your prototype. You can also view properties of whatever you select on the file there on the right side. You can click on the play button to view your prototype, share to share it, and then if there are other people on this file designing with you, you can see them near your name tag. In the prototype tab, you can make different settings that affect your prototype by adding different device mockups and creating new flows. On the left side of the screen is the Figma button, and under the Figma logo you can find different menu settings there. The first one takes you back to the home screen where you can view your files, and then the file allows you to make different changes on design, edits for making different settings as regards to what you're designing on your file. You can see the different options there, and then the view allows you to view, tweak how you view your design environments by adding rulers, pixel preview, and layout guides. I will be explaining these things as we design so that you can get a more practical approach to them. Now be sure to subscribe to this channel so that you don't miss my subsequent videos where I will be talking about the more in-depth processes on how you can design a complete mobile or web applications from scratch. Now the plugins menu allows you to view your saved plugins or search for new plugins that you can use to speed up your designs or make your designs easier and better. You can find different plugins for pictures, illustrations, and lots of other things. Where the tag says Untitled allows you to rename your design. So if you double click, you can dive in and rename your design file to whatever you want. I'm just going to rename this to Figma tutorial for now. Now we have two tabs there. One is for files and one is for assets. On the file, you can find your layers, which means anything that you add or import into your design, you can view it under your layers and interact with it. And then for assets, you can find different design assets or components, reusable components that you create in your design. You can find them under the assets tab. Now below is our toolbar, which means whatever we're going to be designing on Figma is going to be from our toolbar. The first one there is the selection tool. It's called the move tool, and the keyboard shortcode V. You use it to select and pick icons in your design. And now under it you can find the hand tool and the scale tool. The hand tool allows you to move to within different aspects of the design environment to view your files, and then the scale tool allow you to make things bigger or smaller accordingly. Now the second one is the frame tool, which allows you to create different kinds of frames that you can design for. You can create mobile frames for mobile applications. You can create desktop frames for web applications. And under the frame tool, we have the section tool as well, which allows you to create sections that group your frames according to different flows or uses. So if your file gets heavy and you have lots of frames, you can use the section tool to group your frames into different sections of your design. The next one is the shape tool that allows you to create different shapes that you can use in your design. Clicking on the drop down opens up different shapes that you can use. And the last one there is the image or video, which allows you to import images or GIFs that you can add to your designs. Then we have the pen tool and the pencil tool under it, which allows you to create custom vector shapes or drawings, illustrations, or even icons. You can use the pen tool or pencil tool to create different things like that. Then we have the text tool as well. The text tool allows you to add text in your design simply, and then the comments tool allows you to add comments and view comments of other people in your design. Now the action button there is the last one, and it allows you to quickly access your assets panel or your plugin environment, where you can view your saved plugins, look for new plugins, or search for existing assets that you have in your design. Now, the new update on Figma allows you to have access to different drawing tools that you can use to create custom artworks. So when you click on the draw, it opens up different tools. Unlike the design tools, this draw tools allows you to create or have access to different sets of brushes, crayons, and textures that you can use to create custom artworks in your design. But that is not what we're going to be focusing on for now, as we will be designing a mobile screen for our first prototype. First off, pick the frame tool and draw a frame. So on the right side, after clicking on the frame tool, you can see on the right side of my screen I have different names of frames that I could pick from, as well as their dimensions on the right side of their name. So we have frames for desktop, we have for tablets, we have for phones, and you can use, these are presets that you can use without having to create frames from scratch or drawing them by yourself. But if there is a need for you to do that, then you can draw any frame based on the dimension that you want to work with. For the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to be picking the iPhone 16 frame, and we can use that to design our first login mobile UI. So double clicking on the name of the frame allows me to rename the name of my frame to whatever I want. So I rename this frame to login. Since we are going to be designing a mobile screen, you can rename the frames based on what you will be designing on them. Now, while my frame is selected, you can see on the right side of my screen on the properties panel, it shows the different properties that this item that I selected, this frame, contains, from layout to position to appearance and the color that this particular frame has. You can use the different settings on the properties panel to tweak different aspects of your design, from color to stroke to adding effects to adding layout grids, or even changing the opacity of the elements that you have currently selected. We have the stroke section where you can add strokes to whatever element that you have. Clicking on the plus button allows you to add a stroke, and you can customize the stroke width and colors. You can also add different effects onto different elements like drop shadows. You can add layer blurs, background blurs, you can add textures. You can also add the glass effect, which is part of the new updates on Figma. You can add layout grids to your designs based on different kind of grids. We have columns, we have rows, and we have grids, and you can add them to your design to keep things in check and keep things balanced. And the last one is the export option that allows you to export different elements of your design. Now let's start designing the login screen of a mobile app. First off, I'm going to pick the shape tool and pick a rectangle tool to design or draw a rectangle that will be one of the input fields for the login. On login screens, we typically collect user details like email address, passwords, or usernames, and so we are going to create input fields for that. Now pick the rectangle tool and then draw a rectangle of around this size. Now, after drawing the rectangle tool, you can look at the right side of your screen on the properties panel to look at the layout options or the properties of this rectangle. W for the width under layout and H for the height still under layout. So changing any of these values is going to increase the width or the height of this particular shape. Now that our rectangle is drawn and it's aligned to the right side of our screen, I'm going under position and clicking on align horizontal centers to move the element or the rectangle to the middle of my screen horizontally. Let's give it a rounded corner of around 10 pixels, and then we can go ahead and change the color. Feel free to use the same colors that I use in this design, or you can go ahead and be creative and use the colors that you have in mind. I'm going to use a very light shade of blue for this tutorial. You can use that by copying the color code that I use, or you can get creative and use any color that you have in mind. Feel free to use your favorite colors so that you can be creative and also understand how things work. Now that we have drawn a rectangle, I'm going to add a text inside the rectangle that says email address to signify to whoever is going to look at this design to know that that input is for adding email addresses before you log in. Now we're going to open our plugins and look for a plugin icon, an icons plugin that's going to allow us to add different kinds of icons to this design to make things more beautiful. So clicking on the actions button, and then when the model opens up, we can go under plugins and search for whatever plugin that we want to use. Now I use a plugin called Iconify to input different icons into my design. You can search for it under your plugins menu, and once the results come up, it should be the first one at the top. So click on it and wait for the plugin to load. You can find different icons under this plugin that you can use in your designs so that you don't have to create icons from scratch. So let's just search for an email icon by inputting mail in the search bar, and then whichever one that you want, you can click and drag it onto your file, or you could just click on it and then click on import as frame or import as components. Whichever icon you select, you can just click on it and it will be imported into your screen or into your frame as a frame or as a component. If it's imported as a component, it means you can find it under the assets tab. Now you can go ahead, let's go ahead and change the color of this icon. So with the icon selected, under the properties section, you can see under selection colors, the color of our icon is black. So we are going to open up the color picker and change the color of this particular icon to something else. I'm going to use the same blue that I used for the stroke and also make the black on my text a little bit lighter by changing it to gray. Also add a text outside the rectangle or the input field and make the color a little bit darker, which is going to serve as our label for that input field. Now we can select everything that we have here and we're going to copy and paste it by making a duplicate. You can use Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V to make a duplicate or a copy. So just select everything and then click on Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V, and you can notice under the layers panel that it has created more items there. So while these items are selected, just drag them below and you can edit the details. So let's change the label to password, and then we could also change the text that is inside the input field before we go ahead and look for an icon for it. So let's open our plugins again, and then we can search for a password icon. So make sure you select the email icon, make sure it is still selected, then search for the password icon inside the Iconify plugin. Now we have different icons to use for the password. So while the email icon is selected, click on the password icon that you want to use, and then the replace icon option comes up. So when you click on replace icon, it is going to replace icon, it's going to replace the icon that you select inside your file with the icon that you have selected inside the plugin. Now we're going to add another icon on the right side of that password field, which is going to be the eye icon, where users can use to hide their passwords as they type. So you can click on an icon, then hold alternate on your keyboard and then drag to create a duplicate of it, or you can just simply click on Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V to duplicate. Now make sure the icon is selected, then search for an eye icon and then replace icon to replace the icon on your file with the one you have selected in your plugin. So let's create another rectangle by making a copy of one of our input fields, select it, and then click on Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V on your keyboard in order to create a copy, and then drag it down below. So let's change the color of the fill of our rectangle into something else. I'm going to use blue, and then we can go ahead and add a label for this button. In this case, it's going to say login. When the red line shows up when you are trying to place anything inside another element, that is to show you that the icon is aligned either horizontally or vertically. So make your text a little bit bolder and make sure it is aligned into the rectangle, then select both of them, right click on your mouse, and then when the menu opens up, you can go ahead and click group selection to put two of those elements, both of them, they go into one single group. So you can go to your layers panel, double click on the group name and rename it to whatever you want. In this case, I'm going to change it to login button so that we can easily find it at any time. Now we have designed an input field for email address, we have one for passwords, and then we have our call to action button for login users in. So select all these elements and put them in a single group as well by right clicking and going and clicking on group selection. A keyboard shortcut for it is Command G on Mac and then Control G on Windows. Now our elements are in a group, and you can see under the layers panel it says group 1, so we could double click and rename it to something else so that it could be easy for us to reference in our design. So I'm going to rename this to login elements. Now our design is taking shape. Move it to the center of your artboard to keep things aligned, and then let's type in a text which will serve as the name of our app. Type in, feel free to be creative with your names. You can type in your name or the name of a friend, or you can come up with a name for your app as well. I'm going to type in Travelly, and I'll increase the size of the text here on the properties panel to something around 36 pixels, and now make sure it is aligned horizontally, and then I'm going to change the color as well. Now let's open back our plugins, our icons plugin, and look for a Google icon that we can use so that users can log into this app using their Google account. Now, a simple thing I would want to show you is that whenever you import an icon or something into your design, you should always make sure that it is inside your frame. Sometimes it can be confusing until you check your layers panel. So what you should always do is click on the name of your frame, and then if that icon does not fall below it, then you can see that it is outside of your frame. So what you should do is you should always make sure that the selected item goes under the name of your frame on the layers panel. So what you should do is click on the name of the element on your layers panel and then drag it under the name of your frame on the layers panel still. Now once it goes below the name of your frame on the layers panel, then you can say for sure that it is inside your frame, and you can go ahead and work on it. Now select both of these elements, the text and the icon, and put them in a single group like we did with the call to action button for login. You can use your keyboard shortcut Command G on Mac and Control G on Windows to put elements in a group. Now our elements are in a group. You can see on the layers panel, so we can double click to rename the group to something that we can easily reference. I'm going to name mine Google, and I'll align it horizontally to make sure it's in the middle of my artboard horizontally. Now you can see our design is finally taking shape. Now last but not the least, we're going to add a forgot password link that your users can use to reset their password when there is a need for that. Since it is a link, we're going to give it some kind of color, and we won't leave it black. You can always make sure to give links color in your design, as it will help your users to know that they are clickable and not just empty texts. Now we have successfully designed the login screen for a mobile application. We can go ahead and view our prototype by clicking on play at the properties panel, which opens up a new tab where we can preview our designs on a device markup. Now this is our design in an iPhone markup. Remember, at the beginning when we go to prototype, we have selected an iPhone 16 markup, which is why we are viewing it in an iPhone 16 frame. So this is how our design looks like. If this tutorial was helpful to you, please be sure to subscribe to this channel, as I will be uploading more educative videos like this. Also hit the like button so that it could be helpful to others as well, and I'll see you in the next video. Now you know the basics of Figma. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button so that it could be helpful to others as well, and you could also support the channel by doing that. Also subscribe so you don't miss my next videos, as I will be dropping new videos weekly. See you in the next video.